I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm gone. So gone.
Okay, we are almost ready to start Cerakoting. If you are going to Cerakote a stripped upper and or a stripped lower, there's going to be parts of it that you're going to want to tape up. You don't want Cerakote getting on certain parts of the stripped upper and the stripped lower. So you want to get some painter's tape, and you're going to want to tape up the threads as best you can. You want to tape up the threads on your upper. This is where your barrel nut is going to attach right here. So tape up these threads right here, okay? And the M-locker is going to cover this up, so this isn't going to be seen. This part will not be seen once you put everything together, okay? And then once you're done with that, you're going to want to tape up this area right here, which is where the dust cover is going to go. And you're going to want to kind of tape up inside of here and back here as best you can. You want to try and keep, if at all humanly possible, if you get a little bit in there, it's not a big deal, but you can want to try and keep the Cerakote out of the inside of your stripped upper. So make sure you tape all of those parts up. On the stripped lower, same concept applies. We're going to be putting tape on the inside parts here where all of these holes are. These are the holes where the trigger is going to go. This is where the bolt catch is going to go. And then also the mag release right here. This is where your safety select is going to go. And then these holes where your pivot and takedown pins are going to go. You could try and tape up the mag well. It's not a huge deal as some gets in the mag well here. I'm also going to put some tape, little pieces of tape over these holes, which is where the trigger guard is going to go. I actually got a custom engraved gold trigger guard that is a screw-on, so it's actually a lot easier to put on than the trigger guards that you kind of secure with the pin. And we're also going to tape up this part right here, which is where your pistol grip is going to go. And also, very important, there's a little hole right here where there's a spring that's going to go down into your pistol grip, and it's going to go up into this little hole. And as you put your pistol grip on, the spring goes up into this hole, and there's a detent that goes in there for your safety select. Make sure that is taped up, and you can go ahead and tape up this part where you're going to put your pistol grip. So I'm going to go ahead and get those parts taped up. Then we're ready to go out. Then we got to mix our Cerakote. Then we're going to be ready to start Cerakoting. Okay, final step before we actually get to the Cerakoting is we've got to mix up the Cerakote. This is the first time I'm trying this particular brand of Cerakote. I've used Tactical Penguin before for Cerakote. I've had really good luck with them. This is the first time I'm trying this brand. We'll see how it works out. But regardless of where you get your Cerakote from, the process is basically pretty much going to be the same. You're going to have your Cerakote, which is your paint, and you're going to have some hardener, and you're going to have to mix the two. Now, if you order Cerakote, regardless of where you get it, before you mix it, so if it's unmixed, if you haven't added the hardener just yet, you can keep it probably for about a year before you would need to use it. Once you add the hardener, though, and you mix it up, you've got about 48 hours, and then you have to use it. So make sure that you have everything set up, you're ready to roll, you're ready to go before you add the hardener to your Cerakote. The process is almost the same regardless of where you get your Cerakote from. Normally, they almost always send you the exact amount of hardener that you're going to need for the total amount of Cerakote that you got. If, I'm going to go ahead and use all of it today, but if you only wanted to use a portion of this, then you're going to want to get a cylinder that has the measurements that you need, and you want to mix it up. It doesn't need to be perfectly precise, but you want to get this mixture as accurate as you possibly can so it turns out correctly. Once we add the hardener to the Cerakote, we're going to shake it up for about a good 5 minutes or so. You can shake it by hand, but you do want to shake it up very heavily. And even the Cerakote by itself, before the hardener is added, there's a bunch of material here at the bottom that you kind of need to mix up and make sure that it is very thoroughly mixed up. Shake this bad boy for a good 5 minutes. And the amount I got is probably not going to fill up my paint sprayer all the way. So if you have to fill it up again, shake it up, good 5 minutes. Also, you're going to need a 100 mesh strainer. You want to strain this as you put it into your sprayer. This one, and most of them do come with a 100 mesh strainer already. If not, you can get, these are dirt cheap, you can get them on Amazon, but make sure you don't just dump it directly into your sprayer. Make sure that you get a 100 mesh strainer to dump it into your sprayer. Now, there's a couple different ways you can apply the Cerakote. I've got an air compressor and I have an air compressor sprayer. If you can get one of those, I would highly recommend it. It works a lot better, sprays it on very evenly. You can also use what's called a pre-val sprayer. You can get the pre-val sprayers on Amazon. They're really inexpensive. I actually used that before I got my air compressor and my air compressor sprayer. I used that on my Scarlet and Gray build. We've done a video on that, and it turned out fine. But I've been using the air compressor and the air compressor sprayer, and the results, it's a lot easier, and the results are a little bit better. Also, and I cannot stress this enough, if you are going to Cerakote anything, get a legitimate mask. Don't use a garden variety scamdemic mask. Get a legitimate ventilator mask. I picked this up off of Amazon. The mask was $24 including shipping, and then the filters that go on the side I think were an additional $9 and change. Do yourself a favor, get a legitimate mask. Don't do this without a mask, especially when it comes to Cerakoting. It can tear your lungs up quickly. When you paint anything, spray paint, whatever, you should wear a mask, but definitely wear a mask if you're going to be using Cerakote, okay? So, again, regardless of the Cerakote that you get, read the instructions. It's not rocket science. I'm going to use all of this, so I'm going to be adding the entire bit of the hardener to this. Going to shake it up, add it to the sprayer, and we're ready to roll. Okay, I'm not sure how good the audio is going to be. I'm not sure how the audio is going to be on this with this mask on. So, we got everything set up. I've got a much better setup for this in my backyard. However, we're in central Ohio and it is the middle of January, so it's a little cold for that. So I'm going to be doing this in my garage today. The trick is, and this is the H series Cerakote. There's a couple different types of Cerakote. There's the kind that you don't have to oven cure. And the H series, you do have to oven cure. Regardless of which kind you use, the trick to doing this correctly is making sure that your sprayer is about maybe no more than 16 to 18 inches away from what you're trying to Cerakote. You want the coats maybe a little bit thicker than if you were trying to spray paint something, not much. But the way, really the only way you could mess this up is if you're too far away or too close. Don't get it too thick, but definitely don't get it too thin. You kind of got to find that happy medium. Also, we're going to do a little test spray on this box down here to see how it goes, and then we'll start Cerakoting our parts here. So, get the mask back on. That looks about perfect. And we're off. Okay, so the first coat went on, everything looks good so far. I typically wait a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes in between coats. You want it to be, for the most part, dry before you put an additional coat on. Also, when you go to clean your sprayer, make sure that you clean it immediately after you're done. Don't even wait 15-20 minutes to clean this. All the acetone that you use to clean off the parts that you're Cerakoting, use that and clean this immediately. I waited a half an hour one time to clean this and I wound up almost ruining a sprayer. So make sure you clean off your sprayer immediately. Cerakote gunks it up really fast and it dries in there really quick. So again, make sure you clean this off. I'm going to put probably somewhere between 4 and 5 coats on these. There's a couple little bare spots here and there, but I'll wind up ultimately getting everything, covering everything once I get that fourth or fifth coat on there. I'm not going to bother filming every one of those, but I think you guys kind of get the point by now. But let's go ahead and put the second coat on and see how it goes. Okay, so we've put the 8th and final coat on. The last step is to cure it in the oven at 180 degrees for 3 hours. Now, you want to wait until the final coat is completely dry before you put them in the oven. I would wait 20 to maybe 35 minutes. You don't want to wait too awful long, but you do want to make sure that they are dry before you put them in the oven. Now, you can do this in the oven in your house. And if those conversations work the same way in your house that they work in mine, good luck with that. I kind of live by the rule that it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that's me. But good luck with that conversation. This is the 5th time now that I've done this, and I've done it in this oven. As long as you wait until they are dry before you put them in there, which is the proper way to do it anyway, you're not going to get a lot of fumes. It's not going to stink up your kitchen. It's not going to ruin the oven. So you can do them inside of the oven inside of your house. So put them in there. I put the top rack all the way to the top, bottom rack all the way to the bottom, obviously. Line the bottom rack with some tin foil so you're not getting direct heat from that heating element. Just let them dangle there. Set it to 180 degrees, which I believe is the lowest setting on my stove. All right. Starts at 380. Let's go down, or starts at 350. Let's go down to 180, which I believe is the lowest my stove will go. Come on. 180. Start. And mine only takes 4 minutes to heat up, so I didn't bother preheating it. 4 minutes, it's going to be at 180. After it heats up to 180, set the timer for 3 hours, and then we'll come back and see what we got. Okay, these have been in the oven for 3 hours, and I've given them a good half an hour to cool down. I am very happy with how this has turned out. I was thrilled with how well the Stormtrooper turned out. This has turned out great. I love the color. I wasn't sure if I was going to like this color of gold, but I actually really like the color. The finish looks really good. Not too glossy, not too matte. Now, after this has been in the oven for 3 hours at 180, you have to give them at least 24 hours. Actually, I would give them more like 48 hours before you actually start the build process. You want to go ahead and let them sit for at least a couple of days before you start putting these together. It will give the Cerakote plenty of time to finish hardening. That way, when you go to build it, you're not going to chip anything off. But what we can do is we can start taking the tape off, and we can look to see how well the stencil part came out. So we'll go ahead and take the tape off. Okay, that looks like it turned out really well. As did this. This would be the strip lower. There's going to be some parts that didn't get Cerakoted, but those are going to be covered up by, I mean, as soon as you put this whole thing together, all the parts that you want to see that need to be whatever color you choose, in my case gold, are going to be perfectly fine. So, very carefully, we're going to go ahead and take the stencil off. Okay. And again, don't even think about trying to start the build process until they've sat minimum of 24. Again, I would give it 48 hours. I would give it a minimum of 48 hours before you start putting this together. The rest of my build kit isn't going to arrive until the middle of next week. So mine are going to be sitting for probably a good 3 or 4 days before I start putting the rest of this together. So mine's going to have plenty of time to finish the cure process. But again, leave that sit for a couple of days. I actually think that turned out rather well. To me, that looks pretty good. So that is the Punisher stencil that we put on the side of the magwell. Let's see how the stencil worked out on the side of the M-lock here. So just very carefully grab an end of the stencil, start peeling it up. If you can get this started, there we go. Once you get it started, it's a little bit easier. And if it's a little jagged, don't worry about it. You can go ahead once the entire cure process has been completed. You can go ahead and take some soap and water and maybe a little brush and scrub that up, and whatever's supposed to be there will stay, and whatever's not supposed to be there will be removed. So if it's not exactly perfect when you take this off, don't worry too much. You can, again, go ahead and touch this up after the fact. So the stencil didn't turn out quite as well on the M-LOK side, but it still looks pretty good. I am not at all disappointed with how this turned out. So one thing that we said we were going to do is kind of keep track of some costs. So you're going to, obviously, we have the cost of the upper kit. We have the cost of the Cerakote, and we have the cost of the acetone. Those are things that you're going to need to buy if you want to put this build together. Now, well, and another thing you're going to need if you don't already have it, and this is a one-time cost, so I won't really add this to the overall cost of the build. If you don't have this, you're going to need a mask. You're going to need a ventilator mask. Now, as far as applying the Cerakote, if you decide to do this step, you got a couple of different options. You can get an air compressor for about $60. You can go to Harbor Freight, get a 3.5 pound air compressor, $60. Another $25 will get you the hose and kit. And for about another $20 or so, you can get the sprayer. Okay, so that's one option. It's going to run you about $140, $150 if you go that option. Or you can go the pre-valve sprayer route. If you wanted to get one pre-valve sprayer, it's going to cost you about $6 or $7. You can get a package of 2 for like $10 and change on Amazon. But we are going to kind of keep track of these running costs, so you kind of know exactly what you're going to need and exactly what you're going to have to spend. So that pretty much concludes Cerakoting 101. For those of you, again, who are wanting to do a build and you thought you might want a Cerakote, hopefully this was helpful for you. If not, I apologize. As soon as the rest of the build kit gets in, we're going to start going over the build process as well. So thanks very much for watching. We appreciate it. Peace to all. Stay 2A strong.
I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm gone.